And that love had brought him around the world in the hopes that he could find something magical to cure a whole lot of people. He found that along his way, but he also found some incredible knowledge from indigenous people around the world, knowledge about how best to wash your hair when you can't buy a shampoo, knowledge about how best to get rid of dry skin on your feet when you don't have a new skin product in hand. And all of this knowledge he gathered, and then by miracle of faith, or whatever you want to call it, he came across a very special company called Nuskin, and they ended up falling in love, and all of that had led to some amazing products that we now call EPOCH. So I want you all to stand up, put your hands together for the creator of the EPOCH line together with Nuskin. Welcome,
Wasn't that inspiring to hear from Sandy and Steve and our terrific founders? They're such lovely people. I don't think Stephen has ever even had a speeding ticket. Maybe Sandy, I don't know. Not Stephen. So I've got 15 minutes and I want to talk to you about a story of my life and how it can become a story of your life, the EPOCH products. I'm an ethnobotanist. I study how indigenous people use plants for medicine, for shipbuilding. It's a really wonderful profession. And so I took a year off with my family. That's Barbara there. We got a map to try to find the biggest rainforest in Polynesia. It took us to a very remote island called Savai'i. There was no electricity, no running water in this village. We just lived in this little hut for a year because I was desperately looking for a treatment for breast cancer, which took my mother's life. And while we were there, we found something very different. A new drug that could treat HIV/AIDS called Pristratin. There's been thousands of papers written on this drug now. And it came from a tree that the healers taught us to use. So far, so good. Our 4 children had such a wonderful time for this year. We just took their school books and my research gear, and it was just heaven. But then an international logging firm showed up and started cutting down all the forest that made these products, that made this plant that I was interested in. The people were so sad, they were weeping. I asked the villagers, why did you let these loggers come? And they said, we have to build a school. The government will take the school teachers away from our children if we don't build a school. And we don't have any money. And the loggers offered us $85,000 for 12,000 hectares. I said, what if I could raise the money? Could you? They sent 2 chiefs to stop the loggers. I came back to Barbara with good news and bad news. Good news is we'd saved what's a 30,000 acre, I guess that's about 12,000 hectare forest. Bad news is we'd have to sell our house, our car, maybe one of the children. And you know, if your marriage is working at a moment like that, because Barbara took my hand, she looked in my eyes and she said, Paul, what a fantastic opportunity. How many times in our lifetime will we get a chance to do something like this? Let's go for it. So we started. Word spread that we were cashing out, we were selling our house, everything. Suddenly our friends, my students, I was a professor at the time, everybody started chipping in. And I went back 6 weeks later with $85,000 in my backpack. We bought the logging rights right out from under the loggers, and I walked with 600 villagers to the logging firm, and they said, never come back again. I would like to consider that as the first Force for Good project. And this is a company, if you're new, this is a company that makes your dreams come true. Sandy Tilson had a dream. She saw a picture of a house in Kauai made of teak. She has that house. I've actually stayed in that house. Our dream was to make a school, but maybe do this again. Other villages started asking us because they didn't want to choose between their children and having a school, having a medical clinic, having a water supply. So I quickly was introduced to these two guys, Blake Roney and Steve Lund. I saw some of the biggest firms that far bigger, and they said, oh, we can't do that. These guys said, that's why we have a company. You bet we can do it. And they made it possible for this village that has saved their forest to build a walkway in the rainforest so they make income from tourists without ever cutting the forest. And when I asked, could some of your corporation people come down to dedicate this walkway, because Nuskin paid for every cent of this, why, they sent Sandy Tilson and Steve Lund. And that was such a great moment to cut that ribbon. So let me tell you about the products. We just have celebrated the 25th anniversary of the EPOCH products. Every product contains plants used by indigenous people. The very first one we introduced was polishing bar. How many have seen polishing bar or tried it? I used it this morning. It has glacial marine mud and the sister-cross bark that Native Americans along the Pacific coast use to go out before they go salmon fishing. Anybody seen this one? This is called Firewalker. This has in it a special plant that indigenous people use to treat hurt or burned feet. It's a wonderful product that I always carry with me. It's a product that, here's one I made when I was in Sweden as a professor. And Sandy, you came to that inauguration where I introduced you to the king and queen. That was fun. Thanks for coming over. They have a long, who's from Sweden here? Come on. Sweden. So the Vasaloppet, okay, you know, this long cross-country ski thing. I saw the people, they're so tired. I made this when I was in Sweden in Uppsala. This has a wild mint that Native Americans would rub on their legs so they could run hundreds of miles. And it has some other special stuff. We call it ice dancer. A lot of the Olympic athletes going across the Winter Olympics, things, particularly women, freestyle team are wearing this, even though they don't endorse the company. So we have tired feet, Firewalker, achy legs, ice dancer, Soul Solution makes your feet beautiful. And of course, I will forever remember this day, hearing Stephen Lund say his favorite product was because I used it this morning, I use it every morning. It comes from this beautiful plant in Polynesia. And if you say those words, Ava Pui Moni, say them. Ava Pui Moni. One more time, please. Ava Pui Moni. Ava Pui Moni. You say those words in Tonga, Tahiti, Samoa, Hawaii, they will take you to this plant. You squeeze it on your head, it gives you this beautiful fragrance. And every time I smell it in the morning, I'm taken back to this waterfall, and I just love this part. It's so wonderful. Nuskin makes this. It's all natural fragrance. It's terrific. This one is fun. You may not have seen this one. This is the improved getting hang mask. And I do put it on half my face to demonstrate it for people. And it comes on white, you rub it, it activates the charcoal. This is a collaboration between my ethnobotany and the scientists who sit right up in those rooms with their mass spectrometers. It's incredible how they've involved science in this. Baobab body butter. Where's my South Africans? Come on. Yes, you guys understand this, don't you? Absolutely. This is the big tree, the baobab tree. They're giant. And we don't harm any trees. We just take the pulp from the fruit. just like the women in Africa do, rubbing it on. It's a great moisturizer, we love it. And here's the old packaging and the new one. And whether we have a little heart tree of the old packaging, we got to get the new. What does this all do? Well, every time an EPOCH product sells, 25 cents, 25% of the US dollar goes to the force for good. And that helps build schools and hospitals and clinics and other things. And all of the money goes. Because Nuskin sponsors all the administration, so there's no deduction for salary, expenses, anything. And it funds a lot of charities. Barbara and I were able to go to this remote island in Fiji for the first school they called the Namuki Thake Primary School. We built teachers' headquarters, solar panels, water supplies, all the Force for Good funds. And this little girl came up, wanted her photograph with Barbara. By the way, I think Barbara's going to be able to get down here from Wyoming tomorrow, right? So I'm hoping you can say hello to her. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. Anyway, this little girl ran, and Barbara said, "Got my picture," that girl on her left, and some other kids ran up. This little girl walks 8 kilometers every day, one way to get to that school, barefoot. That's how much that school means. This was the 350th school built. Barbara and I thought we could only build one in our lifetimes because of the work that you do. You made my dream not only complete, you blew it away. 350 schools around the world. We've been saving all sorts of little creatures. I used to kneel down at night. My dad was a park ranger to pray for the little animals. This is up in Halong Bay in Vietnam. The catball angler, the most endangered primate species in the world. And because of what you've done, we built school for the people who are exploiting them. They promised to protect them, and the population has doubled. And check this out. Doesn't that hair look beautiful? And it makes me sort of wonder if there's some, just a concern. Yeah. The great one for me was in Madagascar, because this little place was so remote they'd never had a school. And because of Force for Good and the things you do, selling EPOCH products, we built these people the first school they'd ever had. And another village found out their children started swimming in a river. We were worried about them, so we built this bridge, the first bridge these people had seen. When we dedicated it, the old people were crawling. They said, "No, you can walk, hold your weight." But what I haven't told you is that school and that bridge are 3 days' walk from the nearest road. We couldn't get any helicopters in that southern part of Madagascar, so the villagers carried every box of cement, every nail, every pipe, 3 days for that bridge and that school to get it there. That's how precious it was. And so I guess for me, the company and EPOCH and the Force for Good is a bridge between cultures. And I don't know about your feelings about Tina DeFranco, but I think she's fabulous. And I thought it was so wonderful the way you talked about us being a bridge, because for me as an ethnobotanist, I spent a lot of my life in little villages, talking to villagers. I learned their languages. They treat me with love and kindness. And in return for their knowledge, we build schools and hospitals and clinics. And this is just one part of the Force for Good. We discover new drugs to treat children's illnesses. We do surgeries for children down in parts of Asia. We've given eyeglasses to people. Little children in South America don't have any. So when somebody asks you, when you go back to Prague, or if you go back to Krakow, or you go back to Port Elizabeth, or Vienna, wherever you're from, and they say, "What do you do for a living?" Here's the answer I want you to give. You look them in the eye and say, "Thank you for that question. I build schools for children who never had one. I build water supplies for people that never had drinking water. I build solar electrification schemes for little children so they can read at night. I build clinics for people who've never had a doctor. I fund surgeries for little children that have cleft palates. What do you do for me? Wouldn't you like to join me? I'm so grateful you came all this way to Provo, Utah. I'm so grateful for everything you've done. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done